This episode is an ESL listening practice for intermediate learners. You will hear a natural conversation with clear pronunciation and everyday English. No tests, no pressure, just listening. Let's start.
Hello, and a very warm welcome to ESL Listening Practice. We're so glad you've decided to plug in and join us today.
It is great to be here.
If you are listening to this, the chances are pretty high that you're sitting somewhere right in the middle of your English language journey.
Mm-hmm.
You're definitely not a beginner anymore. You can, order a coffee without just pointing at the menu. You can watch a movie and actually get the plot.
You can handle a conversation maybe with a colleague about work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But maybe, just maybe, you are feeling a little bit stuck.
And that feeling of being stuck is, well, it's exactly what we're focusing on today. It's a very specific, and I have to say, a very common phenomenon that almost every single learner faces.
Okay.
We usually call it the intermediate plateau. It's that B2 level where you understand a lot, maybe, 80% of what you hear, but progress suddenly feels incredibly slow.
Oh, painfully slow.
Yeah, it's nothing like those exciting early days, right? Where you learn 10 new words every hour and you felt like an absolute genius.
Yeah. Exactly. It's so frustrating. I think a lot of our listeners can really relate to this specific struggle. You feel like you're doing the work, you're putting in the time, but you just aren't seeing the results you used to.
You feel like you're spinning your wheels.
You're running on a treadmill.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. And the natural reaction, the totally human reaction, is to think, okay, I just need to push harder.
Right. I need to force it.
I need to force it. I need to study more grammar, do more exercises. I'll stay up later with the textbook.
And that's what we call the brute force method. We panic because the progress slows down, so we think the only answer is to just, double down on the effort.
But there's a problem with that, isn't there?
There's a huge problem. That harder approach, it almost always leads straight to burnout. You end up feeling tired, frustrated, and honestly, just unmotivated.
Yeah.
You start to dread your English practice instead of looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker from a learning science perspective. When the brain is stressed and exhausted, it actually stops absorbing new information effectively.
Really?
Yes. There's a concept in linguistics called the affective filter. Think of it like a shield. When you're stressed or bored or anxious, that shield goes up.
Okay.
And any new information, any input, it bounces right off your brain. It can't get in.
So we end up in this vicious cycle. We work too hard, we get tired, the filter goes up.
You stop learning.
We stop learning, so we panic, and then we work even harder.
And it gets worse and worse.
It sounds exhausting just talking about it. It's like trying to drive a car with the parking brake on. You're just burning fuel and making a lot of noise.
It is exhausting. And that is why our mission today is to completely flip that script. We want to look at a totally different philosophy of learning.
Okay.
The solution isn't to work harder. It is, and this is the key, to work smarter. We want to help you reach that advanced C1 level where you feel truly fluent without, burning out your battery.
I love that. Working smarter, not harder. This conversation today is for anyone who feels that intense pressure to be perfect in English and just needs permission to actually enjoy the process again.
That's it, exactly. Permission to enjoy it.
So let's unpack this. Where do we start? I think the first big shift we need to make is in our mindset, specifically how we view English itself.
Yes. This is foundational. This is everything. Most of us were introduced to English in a very specific environment, school. And in school, English is treated like a subject. It's like history or math or chemistry. It is presented as a set of facts and rules that you memorize to pass a test.
Totally. You learn the rule, you take the quiz, you get the grade. It's very transactional.
It's completely transactional. And that mentality, it really sticks with us, doesn't it? Even as adults, we find ourselves sitting there with our notebooks thinking, okay, if I just memorize this list of 50 phrasal verbs, I will pass the test of real life.
We treat a conversation like it's an oral exam that we have to study for.
Exactly. But here is the reality check. At the intermediate B2 level, that school subject approach stops working. In fact, it actually starts to hold you back.
How so?
Well, you see, there are two types of memory that are really important here. There's declarative memory and there's procedural memory.
Okay, break that down for us.
Declarative is facts. It's knowing that. Paris is the capital of France. The past tense of go is went. You declare it.
Got it. Facts.
Procedural memory is skills. It's knowing how, like riding a bike or playing the piano. You can't just memorize the theory of balance. You have to. You have to feel it.
Oh, okay. So school focuses on the facts. The grammar rules, the spelling.
Yeah.
Declarative. But actually, speaking a language is a skill. It's procedural, like riding a bike.
Precisely. You already know the basics at B2. You know how to conjugate verbs. You know the sentence structures.
Okay.
Memorizing more and more long lists of grammar rules is no longer the most effective use of your time.
Why not?
Because you don't need more facts. You need better reflexes. You need to move from knowing about the language to just feeling the language. It needs to become automatic.
That is a bold statement, but it makes so much sense. So if we aren't supposed to be memorizing lists to prepare for some imaginary test, what should we be doing instead?
At this stage, your brain doesn't need more abstract rules. What it needs, desperately, is exposure and usage.
Exposure and usage.
It needs to see and hear how the language lives and breathes in the real world. You have to shift from treating English as a subject to be studied to treating it as a tool to be used.
A tool. I like that. So instead of waking up and asking myself, what complex grammar rule should I conquer today?
Right.
I should be asking something else entirely.
Yes, the question completely shifts. The wrong question is, what should I study? The right question, the one that actually leads to fluency, is, how can I use English today?
Or, how can English become part of my daily life?
Exactly. How can it weave into the fabric of your day?
That feels so much more organic. It makes me think of cooking. You don't become a chef by memorizing recipes in a library.
No.
You become a chef by getting in the kitchen and, chopping vegetables every single day.
That is a perfect analogy. You have to get your hands dirty. And this shift, it makes the whole process so much lighter. If English is a tool, then you should use it to get things you actually want.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, read articles about topics you genuinely enjoy, not English learning articles full of grammar points,
Right.
but articles about technology or fashion or football. Listen to podcasts about psychology or true crime. Watch videos on YouTube that you would watch anyway in your native language.
So, if I love gardening and I want to figure out how to grow better tomatoes, I should be watching gardening videos in English.
Precisely. Because in that moment, you aren't studying English, you're learning about gardening. English is just the vehicle. It's the delivery mechanism for the information you want.
The tool to get the job done.
And when the content is interesting, we call this compelling input. The language stops feeling like a chore and it starts feeling like a doorway. You forget you're learning, and that is when the real magic happens.
That immediately lowers the pressure.
Yeah.
You aren't judging your English grammar. You're just trying to find out if you should water those tomatoes today or not.
Yes.
But speaking of pressure, that brings us to, I think, one of the biggest sources of anxiety for intermediate learners. Let's talk about perfectionism,
Oh, this is a huge one.
the every word trap.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is what keeps people awake at night.
You know the feeling. We've all been there. You turn on a podcast or a movie, you're following along just fine, and then suddenly, bam, you miss a word.
Mm-hmm.
Then you miss another one. Maybe it was slang, maybe they spoke too fast, maybe they just mumbled, and you start to panic.
A panic spiral?
You think, oh no, I'm failing, I don't understand, and your brain just freezes up.
That panic is so real. But it is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how language actually works. And I'm going to tell you a secret that might surprise you.
Okay, I'm listening.
Even advanced speakers, and yes, even native speakers, do not focus on every single word.
Wait, really? Because I feel like I hear everything when I'm listening to my native language. I don't feel like I'm skipping anything.
You feel like you do, but you are actually filtering constantly. Your brain is incredibly efficient. It automatically ignores the ums, the ahs, all the filler words, the background noise.
It's just noise.
It focuses entirely on the meaning, on the signal, not the noise. This is called top-down processing. Your brain uses context to predict what's coming, and it fills in the gaps for you.
Okay.
But when we learn a new language, we don't trust our brains to do that, so we revert to bottom-up processing. We try to decode everything from scratch, every single sound. We try to catch 100% of the data.
We're trying to be human tape recorders. We want a perfect word-for-word transcript in our heads.
Exactly. And that is mentally exhausting. It's what psychologists call cognitive overload. If you were trying to translate and decode every single syllable, you will burn out in about 10 minutes.
And you miss the point anyway.
You completely miss the point. You miss the forest because you are obsessing over every single leaf. And ironically, by trying to hear every word, you often miss the actual meaning of the whole sentence.
So, okay, we need to stop trying to decode. We need to stop being tape recorders. What's the alternative? What should we be trying to do?
The alternative is training for GIST. G-I-S-T. The main idea.
The gist. Okay.
You want to focus on the overall message. You're listening for keywords, you're listening for expressions, for the emotional tone of the speaker. If you are listening to a story and you understand that the character is angry because he lost his keys, does it really matter if you miss the specific adjective he used to describe those keys?
No, I guess not. You got the important part. He's angry, and the keys are gone.
You understood the message, and that is a win.
That requires a lot of trust, though, doesn't it? You have to be okay with not knowing everything, and that feels... I know, it feels dangerous for a student who wants to get it right.
It does feel dangerous at first, but you have to learn to embrace uncertainty. That is the critical mindset shift. If you miss a word, but you still understand the overall message, that is a success.
Not a failure.
It is not a failure. It is actually a sign of advanced listening skills because it means you are using context to fill in the gaps. And that is exactly what native speakers do all day long.
That is so liberating. If you understand the message, you are doing it right. I feel like we need to print that on a t-shirt for our listeners.
We absolutely should.
It really takes the weight off. You don't have to be a walking dictionary. You just have to be a good communicator.
Precisely. And once you reduce that mental load, you find you have more energy for something else that's crucial. Consistency. Which brings us to another major trap. The way we schedule our learning.
Oh, the schedule. I need to find a perfect 2-hour block of uninterrupted silence to study trap. I think we have all been guilty of this one.
Yes, the myth of the long study session. We have this idea that learning only counts if it's painful or if it takes a really long time.
I am so guilty of this. I'll tell myself, okay, on Saturday morning, I am going to sit down for 3 hours and finally master the third conditional.
And what happens on Saturday morning?
Well, Saturday comes, I'm tired from the week, the laundry needs doing, a friend calls, and I end up doing 0 hours of studying.
And that is the reality for most adults, right? We're busy, we have jobs, families, lives, and when we set these huge, intimidating goals, I must study for 2 hours, we usually end up doing nothing because it feels too heavy.
It's too big of a commitment.
It creates too much friction. It's easy to procrastinate.
So if we can't find that magical 2-hour block, what do we do? Do we just give up on consistency?
No, you go micro. You focus on small daily moments. We need to completely break this idea that learning only happens when you're sitting at a desk with a book open.
So shorter is better.
Short. Regular contact with the language is actually far more effective for long-term retention than one giant binge session once a week.
This reminds me of that idea of spaced repetition.
It's the exact same principle. The brain learns through frequency, not just intensity. It's better to remind your brain that English exists 5 times a day for 5 minutes than to cram for an hour once a week.
Okay, so give us some concrete examples. What does a micro habit look like in the real world? How do we actually fit this into a crazy, busy schedule?
It looks like life. The key is a concept I call layering. You take the dead time in your day, the time you're already using for something else, and you layer English on top of it.
Layering. I like that.
So for listening, maybe it's just 10 minutes of a podcast while you're cooking dinner. You're already chopping onions, so you just have something on in the background. Or while you're folding laundry. You aren't finding time for English. You're layering English onto time you are already spending on chores.
So you're not adding new tasks to your to-do list. You're just enriching the tasks that are already there.
Exactly.
Okay, what about writing? Writing always feels like it needs a desk and a serious facial expression.
It doesn't have to. A writing micro habit can be sending one short text message to a friend in English, or leaving a 3-sentence comment on a YouTube video you just watched. It takes 30 seconds, but it forces your brain to actually formulate a thought in English. That is huge.
And thinking. Can we just practice inside our own heads? Does that count?
Absolutely. This is my favorite one because you can do it anywhere. Narrate your life. You are walking to the bus stop. Think in English. Okay, I'm walking to the bus now. It's a bit cold today. I really hope the bus isn't late.
And no one can hear you, so there's zero pressure.
Zero pressure. But you are keeping the English pathways in your brain active and firing. You're greasing the wheels.
It's the compound effect, isn't it? Small, smart choices done consistently over time. Small deposits in the language bank every single day.
It is. Consistency always beats intensity. Doing 10 minutes every day is infinitely better than doing 2 hours once a week. It keeps the language fresh in your mind. It signals to your brain that English is important because it's happening every day.
It's like watering a plant. You can't just dump a gallon of water on it once a month and expect it to survive.
No.
You have to give it just a little bit of water regularly.
That is a beautiful image. Yes. We are nurturing the language, not drowning it in effort.
Okay, so we are shifting our mindset from subject to tool.
Yeah.
We are dropping perfectionism. We're using micro habits. But eventually we do have to talk about the scary part. Moving from that passive input listening and reading to active output, speaking and writing.
The passive versus active gap. This is where so many B2 learners get comfortable and then they get stuck. It feels safe to just consume content.
Yep.
You can read a novel and understand it completely, but then ask someone to describe that novel to you and they freeze. The words don't come out.
The fear of speaking is so real. I think we wait for this perfect conversation opportunity where we feel 100% ready and confident, but that moment never actually comes, does it?
It never comes because confidence comes from doing, not before doing. But I completely understand the fear. The stakes feel high. You don't want to make a mistake in front of your boss or a new friend.
So what's the solution?
The strategy is to lower the stakes. We need gentle activation. We need ways to turn those passive skills into active ones without the stress of a formal class or a high-pressure meeting.
Gentle activation. I like the sound of that. How do we start? What's the first step?
One of the easiest, most low-pressure strategies is simple repetition. It's often called shadowing.
Shadowing.
You're listening to a podcast like this one right now, and you hear a phrase you like. Maybe you like the sound of consistency beats intensity. Pause the audio and just say it out loud.
Just repeat it.
Just repeat it. Mimic the intonation, the rhythm. Feel how the words sit in your mouth. You're not analyzing it. You're just embodying it.
So you're just physically practicing the sounds. You're training the muscles of your face like going to the gym.
Yes. It's building that muscle memory. It connects your ears to your tongue. Your mouth needs to go to the gym, essentially.
Okay, what's another one?
Another great one is summarization. Let's say you just finished listening to a 5-minute news clip or watching a short video. Challenge yourself. Can you summarize the main point in just 3 sentences?
3 sentences. That seems really manageable. You're not being asked to write an essay.
Not at all. You can say it out loud to yourself in the car or just write it down on a sticky note and put it on your desk. The point is you are training your brain to retrieve information and then formulate it in your own words. That is bridging the gap between passive understanding and active creation.
That makes sense.
And my favorite low-pressure strategy is the one we touched on earlier, self-talk, speaking to yourself.
Talking to yourself. People might think we're crazy if we do this in the supermarket line.
Maybe.
But at home or in the car, it's safe, right?
Completely safe and incredibly valuable. Narrate what you're doing when you cook. Okay, now I am adding the salt. The water is boiling, so I'll put the pasta in. Or you can practice a conversation you know you might have later. If my boss asks me about the report, I will say.
So you're preparing.
You're preparing. And the beauty of this is that no one can hear your mistakes. You can stumble. You can correct yourself. You can take all the time you need. It builds the muscle memory for speaking so that when you are in a real conversation, the words are just easier to find. They're closer to the surface.
It's like a dress rehearsal for a play. You practice the lines in private before you have to get on stage in front of an audience.
Exactly. That way, you aren't improvising under the bright spotlight. These small active steps build your confidence brick by brick. You don't just wake up one day and you're a fluent speaker. You build it through these thousands of small moments of output.
Now, I want to address something that I think hits us all very emotionally. We talked about being stuck at the beginning, but I want to go a little deeper into the psychology of that. There are those times when you feel like you are doing everything right. You're listening, you're reading, you're doing your micro habits, and yet you feel like you are not learning anything new. The plateau. It feels like you are walking through thick mud.
The dreaded plateau. It is the emotional low point for so many learners. You look back at your beginner days and you remember this constant rush of, aha, I learned a new word, I learned a new tense. It was so exciting.
Yeah, the progress was visible every day.
But at B2, that rush, it just disappears. The visible external progress seems to stop.
It's that law of diminishing returns, right?
Yeah.
You put in the same amount of effort, but the visible results are much, much smaller.
That is definitely part of it, but we need to reframe what is actually happening here. Being on a plateau does not mean you are broken or failing.
Right.
It is a completely normal, and I would even say necessary, part of the process between B2 and C1. In fact, if you aren't hitting a plateau, you probably aren't advancing.
So it's not a stop sign.
No, it's a construction zone. Think about what is happening in your brain biologically. Your brain has absorbed a massive amount of information to get you to the intermediate level, just a huge amount.
Right.
Now, It needs time to organize all that information. It needs to strengthen the neural pathways. It's an internal process that scientists call synaptic consolidation.
So just because we can't see the progress on the outside, it doesn't mean the brain isn't working really hard on the inside.
Exactly. It's like downloading a huge software update for your computer. You know when the screen looks totally frozen or the progress bar is stuck at 99% for what feels like 20 minutes.
Yes, and you want to restart the computer, but you know you shouldn't.
You know you shouldn't. It looks like nothing is happening. But underneath, the hard drive is writing files furiously, reorganizing everything. Your brain is doing that. It's consolidating. It is turning knowledge into instinct.
I love that computer analogy. The screen looks frozen, but the processor is running hot. So if we find ourselves in this phase, what do we do? Do we change our study method? Do we buy a new textbook? Do we panic?
Usually, no. The advice is, I admit, a little boring, but it's true. Trust the process.
Trust the process.
Don't change everything. Don't panic. Maintain the course. Keep listening. Keep reading. Keep using English in your daily life. You are feeding the brain the data it needs to finish that update. If you stop now, you crash the installation.
And then what happens after you?
Yeah.
Trust the process.
Then, usually quite suddenly, you have a breakthrough. You wake up one day and you realize, hey, I didn't have to translate that last sentence in my head, or wow, I just expressed a really complex idea without thinking about the grammar at all. The progress returns, but only if you didn't quit during that quiet period.
That is so encouraging. It's a test of faith, really. You just have to believe that the breakthrough is coming. But to get there, we have to survive the journey. And that brings us to our final and maybe most surprising point in our discussion today.
Rest. The forgotten strategy. The one nobody ever talks about in language learning.
We feel so much guilt about rest. If I take a day off from English, I feel like I'm sliding backwards. I feel like I'm lazy. I feel like I'm betraying my goals.
And that guilt is the enemy. It's what drives us back to burnout. We have to look at the energy equation. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. You simply cannot sprint for 5 years.
Right.
If you ignore your energy levels and try to just push through the exhaustion, you will burn out. And burnout takes much, much longer to recover from than a simple rest day.
So rest isn't the opposite of learning. It's not the enemy of progress.
Rest is part of learning. Just think about fitness. Your muscles don't grow while you are lifting the weights. They grow while you are sleeping and recovering after the workout.
That's a great point.
Your brain is exactly the same. It needs downtime to absorb and cement what you've learned. Neuroscientists talk about 2 modes of thinking. There's the focus mode when you are actively studying, and then there's the diffused mode when you are relaxing or taking a walk or showering. That diffused mode is where your brain connects the dots and has those aha moments. If you're always in focus mode, you never give your brain the space to do that deep learning.
So we actually need to give ourselves permission to take a break.
We do. And if you're listening to this, I want you to hear this message loud and clear. It is okay to take breaks. It is okay to reduce your study time when life gets crazy. It is okay to enjoy English without having learning goals.
What do you mean by that last part? Enjoy it without goals.
I mean, it's okay to watch a movie just because it's a good movie and not pause out to write down every new vocabulary word you hear.
Oh.
Yes, please do that. That is called extensive viewing or extensive reading, and it is incredibly good for your fluency. Let your brain just bathe in the language without the pressure to analyze every piece of it.
So if you're feeling completely fried, maybe the best thing you can do for your English is to stop studying for a day.
Absolutely. Go for a walk. Get a good night's sleep. Watch something funny in your own language. Come back to English when your energy is replenished. You will find that your brain is sharper and much more ready to engage.
This has been such a refreshing conversation. I honestly feel like I can breathe a little deeper now. We've covered a lot of ground from, the neuroscience of memory to the practical habits of narrating your cooking. Let's try to summarize the main philosophy here for everyone listening.
Okay. If I had to boil it all down, I think it's this. Study better, not more.
Right.
Shift your mindset from memorizing rules to using the language as a real tool in your life. Focus on meaning and connection, not on perfection and decoding every single word.
And be consistent rather than extreme. Those micro habits, the 10 minutes here, the text message there, they really add up to massive results over time.
And finally, and maybe most importantly, patience. Fluency grows quietly. It grows in the plateaus. It grows in the rest periods. It is happening even when you can't see it.
I love that. Fluency grows quietly.
Yeah.
Before we let our listeners go, let's leave them with something to chew on, a little challenge for the week ahead.
I have a question for you to ponder and a small experiment to try. We've talked a lot about the difference between learning English and living in English. So here's my challenge. What if you stopped trying to learn English for just 1 week? Put away the textbooks, stop the grammar drills, and instead you just tried to live in English for 10 or 15 minutes a day. How would your relationship with the language change?
That is a great experiment. So just live in it. Read a blog about your favorite hobby. Listen to a song that makes you happy. Talk to yourself while you make your coffee.
Yes. See how it feels to treat English like a companion instead of a boss?
I love that.
Take the pressure off and see what grows in its place. You might be surprised to find that when you stop struggling, you start swimming.
Thank you so much for tuning into ESL Listening Practice today. We really hope this conversation helps you take a gentle, confident step forward on your journey.
Thank you for listening. And remember, you are doing better than you think you are. Keep going.